Welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding livestream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm finally back. I'm your host, David Khourshid, also known as @DavidCake right now.
And together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
Yeah, we'll be creating an animation, as always, from scratch live, using HTML, CSS, and a small bit of JavaScript hand preparation. Let's see that.
Yes. And this show is made possible by your support. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers to help us keep the lights on, and you can follow the links down below for more ways to support us.
Yeah, and of course we're happy to answer any questions that you may have, and we're also going to respond to every comment, I guess. Are we? Almost every comment.
Well,
so anyway, reach out in the Twitch chat or in the YouTube comments. So.
Awesome. How you doing today, David?
Good. How are you? You're not dead, which is good.
I am not dead. I am significantly better than last week. Last week was very rough. Just some kind of cold, but Monday evening I had like no voice, and then Tuesday I literally couldn't talk. It was bad.
Yeah, and I was out of town, so there is that. That sort of does put a hamper on things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was helpful. Before we start, a little small bit of news, I guess. I'm currently in the process of changing jobs.
You're leaving the Keyframers. Where are you going to?
No, my day job. I'll be leaving. Currently at a company called L Creative, just a really great agency in Houston. Doing a lot of really great work across animation, 3D, web, all that kind of stuff. And I'll actually be starting at CodePen next Monday.
Cool. So, what is CodePen?
Well, it's this platform/social network for web developers. Has a lot of cool features like collaborative coding. A lot of people like to share animations there. Yeah, it's a pretty cool little place.
Never heard of it. Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's still a little bit surreal. That'll actually settle in that I'm starting, but probably Monday. So.
Oh yeah, so looking this up, I guess you get to work with celebs like Chris Koye, or however you pronounce his name.
Koye, I believe.
Koye, okay, so he's a French dude then.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, great.
Nice. We've got Mamba Leo here with us, finally in a sensible time zone, we'll say.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that out of the way. Shall we get started here?
Yeah. So we had a challenge, and we never say no to most challenges. So I guess we do say no to some, but yeah, this is a good challenge.
Yes. Hey, Richard. Glad to have you here. So yes, Ali Tawash sent this in last week while I was under the weather, suggesting this ensure landing animation. Let me paste that link in the chat for y'all to follow along. This is a nice little form animation with a lot of good transitions. So multi-step form, we've got 5 steps. Each time they fill something out and move on to the next step. There's just some really sweet transitions.
Yeah, so an interesting part about this is that it deals with something that we work with as web developers pretty much every day, which is forms. And forms are notoriously complex and difficult to work with. And so we're going to be playing around today, like just looking at this, maybe some HTML5 validators. And this wizard style is also something that, you know, is pretty common.
Yeah. Yeah, and this
there are some things in here which we are going to simplify, namely in step 3. We're just going to have that be a single field.
Yeah, but most of the techniques we'll be covering will kind of apply to those kinds of toggles where more form fields are revealed. Since it's basically just boiling down to state and state transitions.
Mm-hmm. And so with that, we have did a little bit of setup, but we have a very simple state machine. And I say it's simple because it's a unidirectional, very linear, going from step 1 through step 5 until you finish the form. And so if we have time, we'll look at how we could expand upon that and maybe add some functionality, like if you want to go back a step, stuff like that.
All right. Mm-hmm. Well, let's slide over into our code here. So we did just a little bit of pre-setup. Well, David did a little bit of pre-setup.
Very minimal.
Yes. I see you have individual forms for each of these.
I guess it's not necessary. I guess that it should be one big form. So that's something that we could. So let's call these.
These could be field sets.
Section.
Whoa.
There we go. That worked.
Did it?
Yeah, that did it. All right, so
let me refresh because I think it got out of sync while you were doing that.
Yeah, that's good.
Xstate in the house. Woo woo. We got some Xstate callouts in the chat.
Yeah, so this is using Xstate version 3. Version 4 is coming out, but I didn't want to use it this time just because, I want people to be able to play with this immediately. And Xstate, if you've noticed the state machine patterns that we've been doing, which if you remember, it's just in objects. We're just using an object and doing simple JavaScript object lookups. All Xstate is doing right now is abstracting that a little bit for us so we don't have to do the whole figuring out what the next state is. Xstate just knows how to do that. So it's pretty much the exact same thing that we've been doing. I just wrap it in a function, and that's it.
And how heavy is Xstate?
Xstate will lighten your workload and your soul, and I don't know. I think it's about like one of those like 7 kilobyte gzips type of things.
Not bad at all.
I know, because the thing is, Xstate does a lot.
Right.
In fact, you could build. I mean, Xstate has no dependencies. Why are you asking me about the size? Jeez.
That's always the first thing you check when you're looking at a library.
That's true. If you need a simple finite state machine like we have here, then you might not need Xstate. And so it goes down to 0 kilobytes, right? But over here, I just wanted to play around with it. Xstate does a lot more than what you see here because it deals with nested states, parallel states, history states as well if you want to implement a history mechanism, also actions. And in version 4, you're going to have more things such as timers. So if you wanted to do something where it's like automatically transition to the next state in 5 seconds, if this condition holds, then it will just do that. So there's going to be a ton of features. And also, it's based on a spec called SCXML, which has been around for around 10 years. It's been used in many different programming languages. So nothing here is invented. It's all based on a lot of old research. So
very nice.
Which that's my style. Anyway, all you have to know is that this does what we've been doing before. So
yeah, we're getting some good support for Xstate in the chat. So you're not alone out there, David.
Good. I paid that person.
I
I'll get you your money, I promise.
I see the
Checks in the
value
mail.
of I see the value of state machines. I'm still trying to get my mind around just normal use of them. All of these streams are super helpful in that. But
Yeah, so as Sean and I were talking offline, or you and I guess I'm talking to you, we were talking about just how, it's sort of a mind shift and it's a little bit awkward how we construct state machines in code. And then I asked you, well, first of all, I agreed, but then I asked you what the alternative was. And the alternative is just messing around with the alternative is worse, long story short. You're messing around with logic in code, and your logic is in many different places. And in order to add a feature or change a feature, you have to touch so many different parts of the code. So as awkward as constructing a state machine is, doing it the normal way is much worse. And so the alternative is doing it visually, which is something that I'm working on. And so that might be released with version 4 as well.
yeah, I'm on board for that. Visual always trumps just trying to type it in or use some obscure code for something. No.
Yeah, so
Give me a
let's quickly explain what's going on here. We have a form with 5 steps. Real easy. You go from step to step to step every time you click next, right? And I think you could see that. And
yes.
yeah. So when you just click the next button. Now, the cool thing is that in the CSS, you'll see this data active, data selector, attribute, data attribute selector.
Yes.
And so all that's doing is adding an outline, that nice blue outline. And the code that does it, this isn't part of Xstate. This is just code that we've sort of been doing already. So we set the app's data set states to whatever the state is. We remove all of the data active attributes, and then we figure out the ones that are supposed to be active, and we set active to true. So in the HTML, we'll have something like data show equals step 1. And so if the state is step 1, then it'll have that data active attribute. So that's all that means.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a very similar pattern that we've used in a lot of the other episodes. I recommend going back and watching any of the ones where we've built state machines, and that'll break that down a little bit further. But yeah, basically we're just looking for data show and the specific step that we're on, and that will toggle over to active.
Yeah, and so real quick, I'll tell you how, maybe this is the same for you, but I'm going to tell you how I did this before I discovered state machines, like back in jQuery land.
Oh,
right.
Oh.
Added.
How far back are we time traveling here?
Oh gosh, like 5 years or so. But anyway, I would say, like, let's add an active class. So I just look for .active, right? And then I would have to take care of manually removing the active classes and toggling them on and off and all of that sort of stuff. So it's pretty much the same thing that you did, right? Or anyone really.
Yeah, it's very similar to that pattern, but managing it all in the state machine helps us be a little more explicit, and the use of data attributes is going to prevent a lot of conflicting states that could arise.
Yeah. All right, so let's do some styling.
Yeah.
What I need your help with, well, everything basically, but the the timeline number line on the left.
Oh yeah, I can totally do that. First, I'm gonna do our grid template. Grid template, yeah. And
okay, so UI form is now the entire.
Yes.
Okay.
UI section, grid template area, work? I always mess that up. I'm still getting used to the CSS grid format.
Yeah, me too. Okay, and so you have all the sections laying on top of each other.
That's the goal. I'm not quite right there. Let me go back and reference some past pins here. Let's see where that is.
Oh, I think it could be, or like something like that.
Template. Is it just, oh, it's grid area, I think, is all I'm missing under section. Yeah, there we go. All right, so this display grid approach really just creates the layers that we want. We want everything to stack on top of each other because the form elements are all appearing in the same place. However, we want all of our UI sections. Let's just say display none for now. Display none, and then data active we'll set to display block. And then we've got all of those stacked up. What is the, okay, show, let's set that to UI section as well. There we go. All right, and the benefit of doing the display grid format is it allows the UI form to be sized to the largest child. So if we set this to outline solid and pixel red.
So I'm not seeing your updates right now.
Again, we've been having some syncing issues here. All right, I'm refreshing.
All right, good plan, good plan. I'll refresh as well.
Refreshed. All right.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, let me paste in.
I think it's because CodePen has this Teams account sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's public, right?
Yep.
You're gonna get in trouble for me saying that.
No.
Anyway, and we were both on the same accounts at the same time, so I think that was one of the issues.
Yeah, it's something I'll research as I'm joining the team.
Just what exactly you could get in trouble for?
Oh, actually, we want to set these to visibility hidden and visibility visible so that we're getting the proper sizing there. Okay. So you can
be styling stuff while you do that.
Cool. So you can see how the size of the box stays consistent there, regardless of the size of the element currently showing. And then let's see, CSS grid.
Did you just go to the last state?
I'm at the last state currently.
Okay. I'm going to make it so that you go back to step one.
Yeah.
Which is something you could easily do.
Yeah. So we'll do align items, center, justify items, center, so that we get, yeah, a nice center alignment. Let's see. Yep. Don't need display grid there. Form, we'll do height. H. There we go. All right, so we've already got beautifully centered form. You're seeing those updates, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but so it should be centered vertically, but not horizontally. I think horizontally it should stay the same width. So,
what should stay the same width?
the forms itself.
Yeah, well, we can play with that as we get more into it. I think right now adding the step indicator.
It's a problem for future us.
Yeah. Okay. How would you approach the step indicator?
I don't know.
Let's see. We've got 5 steps.
Oh yeah, so I would definitely have that li, and then you could do the data show stuff, you know. And so all data show does is add that data active and, you know, remove it. So it doesn't really show or hide. So maybe I should call it something different. I don't know. But...
yeah. Let's see. Let's use that handy multi-cursor in there. Love being able to use that. And we'll say, hey, Thunder Nerds, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Thunder Nerds.
Okay, and we've got our outline carrying through, so that's perfect. All right, I'm gonna move all the show hide stuff here. Let's do data active. Yeah. Okay, work. I'll add in a little section here for my steps.
Great.
We'll do. And the great thing about our grid pattern is we can go back and actually, you know, make a real grid if we want. We'll just update, you know, the UI section to be the proper area. So with grid template, it's let's do auto 1FR, and this will be 2, 1, I think. Yeah, with grid template, let's see, let's do grid template, columns, and grid.
So one of my favorite grid guides is at learncssgrid.com. CSSgrid.com. That's one that I always keep going back to. And if I really need to get in depth, then Jen Simmons has some excellent materials. She also has a YouTube channel called Layouts Land. And so this does a really good job at explaining just the different intricacies of how grid layout works, stuff like that.
Yeah, sorry if the buffering is is kicking in. Had some stability issues lately. But yeah, the 720p is the full stream quality right now. We're working to you know, get updated, but for right now the stability of the connection is more important. Trying to get the chat working. Get focused on where you are. Let's see. Pardon me.
Okay, just add some button styles right now. Let's see what we could do. I have a SAS variable. These are still useful, believe it or not. Let's see.
Hopefully that gets the chat back in there.
One of the reasons why I just encourage, doing as many of these as you can, which is what, as Shaw and I do. Funny enough, I don't make as many personal code pens that I would really like to. It's mostly 99% have been on the keyframers, which is a lot of fun. But anyway, the more of these you do, the more it becomes pretty much muscle memory to do all sorts of different UI things. So you don't have to like reach for a library or a framework like Bootstrap, something like that. Like 2 cents.
All right. Any idea why my grid is wrong? Grid template columns.
Let's see where you are. Line 74. It would be cool if I could just click
line 32 actually in the CSS.
Okay. Are we synced?
Okay. Okay. There we go.
Yeah, we're synced, right?
Yes, I believe so. Okay.
All right. Grid template columns 1FR 1FR. Grid template rows 1FR. All right. So
grid row 1. Grid.
Let's get rid of this for now. 1. And so,
right.
Okay.
Oh, 2.
Where?
Whoa. 2. Okay.
There
we go.
Whoa.
All right.
Okay. Yes.
So let's.
That.
Okay.
That's what we want. So
yeah,
change this 1FR to like 3 Remal or. Did we just come up with? Oh, okay. Auto. Yeah. I thought you were going to use AU, which stands for astronomical units, which is the distance it takes light to reach the Earth from the sun, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so this is something I'm trying to propose in the CSS, just having that like 1 AU or 2 AU. It's a unit of measurement equal to 149.6 million kilometers. So that's a large amount of pixels, but if we wanted to make like a CSS solar system to scale, it would be useful. So
yeah, I can see that.
And I've seen some really good CSS solar systems, but they're tiny. I want like an actual size CSS solar system.
You might need a bigger monitor for that.
I have a good like 30-incher. What about you? Actually, no, it's only 28.
Well, my main screen for broadcasting here is just the 15-inch MacBook Pro screen.
Okay.
But then I've got the ultra wide next to it for displaying all the stream stuff.
And for the solar system.
Right.
Gotcha.
All right, let's do margin right. 1 rem. Yeah, 2 rem. Yeah, sure. Border radius. 50%. Yeah, pretty soon we'll be streaming keyframers in 4K. Keep an eye on that.
And I would actually have to put makeup on.
Yeah, I don't know that Houston offers the internet connection needed for that.
Probably need a move.
Okay, let's do background. A.
Add some Lorem Ipsum just for some animation fun. Now, if I remember correctly, your splitting library, does that do lines as well?
You know what? It does. It does.
Because what we could do is, like, as we get to each step, we could have like a little stagger effect for each line of the paragraph. And I think that that's close to what the animation does, so that'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool, I think. State grid, yeah, there we go. All those spread out. Let's do our data active. That. Do you have blue in a variable? Okay, color primary.
Yeah, I got blue there.
Yeah, background. 4K is so 2017. Well, what's 2018? 5K? Is that what we're up to nowadays?
Don't even know.
I'm still getting into HD. 27K. Yeah.
I'm still good with my normal monitors. You know, I have an old monitor that I still use from like 5 years ago. Still works. You don't need any of your fancy subpixels or anything.
I know I've been sharing Piano Guys videos trying to get people to go all in on state machines, but where do I know Beardy from? Is that my new name?
Beardy. Okay, so Beardy has done quite a few high-profile code pens himself. He is quite the man on CodePen. You should see his stuff. He made like an alpaca thing. That's like the one I know best. Remember that?
Alpaca Peck.
Yeah, alpaca peck.
Yes.
Here, I'm gonna look that up because that one is special. It's like the most wholesome game that you could think of.
Let's see.
I can't even spell it. Like alpaca peck.
Alpaca Peck. That's right.
I'm saying that 5 times fast. Alpaca peck. I can't even do it one time. Anyway, just observe this glory, this alpaca pecking type stuff.
Hey, thanks for
Great.
following. Yes, this was an experiment with Matter.js. The keyboard doesn't work, I think, if the editor is open, but you try and get these alpacas close enough to make them smooch. Oh, oh,
So cute.
oh, alpacas. Oh dear, but they come crashing back down. But that's cool. Yeah, that's fun to play around with.
Did you know that Shaw had to research alpaca physics for that?
I did, and it was surprisingly hard to find any up-to-date information. A lot of outdated articles on that. Yeah. Unfortunate. Let's see. And I am so on the steps here. There's some nice alpaca emojis out there. That's great. So let's see the steps there. Center.
And I love how I could just add a simple attribute to like my input elements and just be able to validate them.
Where are you at?
Now there's this thing called HTML pattern, the pattern attribute, which allows you to get more in depth with what kind of stuff that you could put into your inputs. And I think it takes a regex. You pronounce it regex or regex? Regex just sounds very wrong. So
really?
I don't know.
Huh. Reg. I mean, it is regular, but
oh, not regular.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't think I know any Reggies, so I don't know where that would come from. But
got it. So yeah, hey, check it out. Go to step 1 and type 5 numbers. And there's no animation right now, but just type 5 numbers.
We might be out of sync.
Oh no.
Jeez. Yeah, I don't see any changes in the HTML there. All right, copy and paste what you have. I'm refreshing here.
I copy pasted everything, so
okay. All right.
Let's see what I lose.
I see you in there now.
You lose anything? Anything of value? I don't know why we got out of sync, but
yeah.
I wish we could do some sort of diff. That's okay. I sort of remember what I did anyway. Well, this is fun.
Let's see. Where are you working now?
Okay, so this .ui field in the CSS. So are we in sync?
I see UI field. I don't see any validation or anything around it.
In the HTML or CSS?
In the HTML.
Oh, no. So I'm not there yet.
Oh.
But I'll add just required over here and then pattern. And we could say a digit repeated 5 times. So that's going to automatically add our validation. So when you type into the field, it's not going to show the next button until you type 5 numbers.
Hey.
And so
that's
talk
fancy.
a little bit more about that later. But it's really cool, especially if you're making a quick prototype.
Yes.
And so that's one of the reasons that we do these shows, is we want to show you that you could do these complex animated prototypes in pretty much under 2 hours. And then those prototypes can actually be your production code. I mean, with a little bit of tweaking and all that, but
yeah.
It's not like we're opening up Sketch or InVision or Principle or Framer X and trying to do all this.
Right.
We prototype in code.
All right. UI steps is being a little punk here. I'm probably going to have to add a span wrap here, unfortunately.
How many people are in your house right now? I tried to make variations on these questions. Just reading them, it sounds a little silly, but
sounds very invasive.
You know, but
let's do this as the span. Okay. Oh. Right. Width 0 pixels. That'll line it all up. There we go. Do that there.
you know, one of the ways, actually pretty much the way that I learned CSS at first, was just making all these forms. Because one of my first jobs was working at a health company where this is pretty much what we had to do every day. Is just making these complex workflows with all of these forms. They could be inline forms, they could be stacked forms. And what we found was we were, of course, just like everyone else, using jQuery and Bootstrap at the time. And, you know, we toyed around with Foundation, but the idea is the same. We used some sort of framework foundational library in order to make all of our form elements. Doing this, we found that we had a lot of setbacks and pitfalls because the clients would always want the tiniest custom things that didn't exactly fit Bootstrap or Foundation. And so we found that we were tweaking the CSS, and if any of you remember or still do this, tweaking Bootstrap CSS is very much a pain and very quickly gets into disarray. So I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So that was my life, and that's, you know, cut my teeth on learning CSS via forms.
Yeah.
Only plates. What would you think your household income would be if you were a musician?
If I were a musician, $0.
Uh-huh. All right.
I've actually done okay. I've, at least paid for all my equipment, doing musical things. Let's see.
It's pretty much my life for 4 years or so. Just paying the bills, being a musician, which involves, playing for churches, teaching music lessons, having the odd gig that paid sort of well, but they were pretty rare to come by. Sometimes.
Let's see. Rows. Do pseudo elements adhere to grid?
I think they do. I think they actually do. So
that's correct. That's not. Why is that not full height? Okay.
Yeah, I see the lines. They're
yeah,
they're doing their line thing.
They sure are.
It's a very.
Red rows.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. I made these progress bars. I remember them being a pain, so have fun with that.
Yeah.
But making them in pure CSS is always a pretty fun exercise. So.
Yeah, it's getting there. Display. Let's see. Nope. Display grid there. Grid row 1, 2. It's fine. I really need to get more into grid syntax to just be able to do this. No problem. Oh. Come on. Is that it?
I'm leaving you. Is everyone watching?
What are you working on?
So I'm adding data flip keys right now to not to every step, but only the ones where where we're going to show like dynamically showing that next button. Because in some of the steps, like the first 2 steps, it doesn't appear right away, which is totally fine.
Grid rows, right?
And I'm gonna add some clipping. So.
Oh, template rows. Auto 104. Aha.
Figured out?
Yeah.
Nice.
Grid rows is not a shortcut for grid template rows. You
think it would be? I mean, that sort of makes the most sense.
Yeah, you might think that.
Oh well.
Let's see. Oh man, yeah, that's, I'm actually gonna need to do UI step here.
Let's see. Let's show. I'm writing some pretty prototypey code here, just because. Hey, it's looking good. There we go. But yeah, just because I want the, for example, on the third step, I want that next button to show dynamically. And yeah, I'm just going to do it when they check the checkbox. Yeah, I'm just going to have it show there just so that we could demo that sort of flip effect.
Do what when they check the checkbox?
Show the next button. So only when they show they click the checkbox will the next button show. So I'm just going to write some junk code for that.
IE11, does that handle grid? Do you remember, David?
IE11 has an older syntax for grid, so I wouldn't really recommend it.
Yeah.
But so, and this is something that Jen Simmons and others talk about too, is that when you are trying to implement a grid design, but you need to support older browsers, the one most important thing, which I always stress to people to keep in mind, is it does not need to look the same in every browser. So stop trying to make it look the same. It's not going to matter. The only way it would matter is if your user has multiple browsers that they're using. And if they try to call you out on it, then they are not a kind person anyway. So, yeah.
Let's see. Okay. I wasn't updating, but now it is. Transform, scale Y, 0.5. Do that, but we want.
Add the code to do the to show the button dynamically. Hey, that tracker on the left is looking good.
Yeah, getting there. So what I'll do, scale Y 1. Do you have any variables for animation or anything yet?
No, absolutely none. Are we supposed to? It's not like we're doing an animation live stream, are we?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what's cool? If you want to go through the steps quickly, all I did was set the opacity to 0 on the next buttons. So if you know where the next buttons are, you could just click the invisible next button.
Nice.
Yeah. Oops.
Let's see. Oh, that's what it needs to be. I'm having to style the elements after. Yeah.
Which elements?
Okay. Using the adjacent sibling selector, or is that?
Oh yeah, that's always fun.
Let's see, data active. This is actually scale Y 0.
At least we're still in sync, which is good.
Yeah, I haven't run into these there. Awesome. Yeah, so that's... Hey, thanks, Womp Womp. Okay.
So I have an interesting trick that, and this is one of the reasons that I use the not attribute selector a lot, even when you don't necessarily need to, but it's still helpful. So for example, let's say that you're trying to hide something when it has a data attribute or some other selector, and you want to otherwise show it. So you could, of course, use display none if you want to completely remove it from the DOM and just have everything collapse as if it doesn't exist. But then when you need to show it, usually you would go for, oh, we need to set it back to display block or display inline block, and that's where the problem lies. You don't know what it was before, and you have to either guess or figure out what it was before. And you can't even use display initial because that's going to go to the initial set value by the browser, not the initial value that you set for that. So that's why using not and just doing not that selector, display none, and then you don't have to worry about what the display state for it should be. So that's what that is. Because right over here, the button, my mistake was the button was actually display inline block, and I didn't know that. So.
Yes, that'll often catch you off guard.
Yeah. Just a quick little amateur tip. I don't want to call it a pro tip because it's a tip based on my mistakes that I made. So it's an amateur tip.
Right. Speed. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Yeah. Almost got the little loader working right, or the... Come back here next. There we are. All right. So yeah, there's the little round. Ooh, the round piece actually moves with it. I think I'm gonna fake that. So let's do content display block. We don't need that because we'll set it to position absolute. Did you already position relative everything?
You bet. You bet.
Excellent. Border slide 1 pixel. Let's do that.
You know me too well. And I can rant again about how much it helped me, because it does help. I promise.
Yeah.
Ooh, circles. Nice.
Yeah. Property, transform, and I love using inherit. Do you find yourself using that at all?
I do. I've used it more and more now, like for either colors, border radius, other properties. What do you usually use it for?
Well, transition is a good one if you're doing if you're trying to coordinate parent-child animations. it can be super handy, even if, for example, right here, I'm transitioning background color on the dots, but then that the little expanded circle needs to transition transform. But otherwise, all the properties are the exact same. So I just do transition inherit and then override the specific piece like transition property transform. And then that means they will be in sync.
Nice.
Do border color there. All right.
Oops, I was wondering why something wasn't working. I was trying to delete the entire data set. I'm guessing that's not a kosher thing to do. So.
No, I would not recommend that.
Right. Yeah. Oops. Interesting. I need some animation help when you got a second, but we could tackle it later. I'm brain farting on something, and you know what? I'll just ask for the people listening or watching or whatever you're doing. Maybe this is on a I don't know, one of those RSS feeds. Anyway, so my question is, let's say that, for example, on step 3, go to step 3, you'll see that there is that button right there. And so what I want to do is, and I guess I need an animation for this instead of a transition, but I was trying to do, when it's not clickable, to have it display none and transform translate Y, which I guess doesn't make sense with display none. But the reason I want display none in there is because I don't want it in the actual layouts. You know, I want it to disappear.
Yeah.
So can I use transition, or am I forced to pretty much use an animation?
All right. Show me where you're at in the CSS.
So look for or line 111. Okay. Nice and even for you.
Excellent. Okay. Yes. So not clickable. Display none. Transform. Translate Y. Can we set the state to be step 3? Oh, you've got it in the app. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah. Sorry. So you could just change the initial state. And I'll leave that as an exercise to you. Oh wait, you already figured it
out. Yeah, we'll do that in a different way in a little bit. Okay, so yeah, you're trying to animate from display none to display. No, that doesn't work. Of course.
Right.
But let's see. Yeah. You can potentially do absolute. Let's see. Well, that's interesting.
See, what I'm thinking is that we're pretty much forced to do an actual animation, right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as things being in and out of layout, it's very hard to just transition that.
Yeah, pretty much figured. Well, all right. You know what? That's fine. You can deal with that. So yeah, we'll just make that an animation. No big deal.
Yeah, I helped Cassidy Williams with a similar issue recently, where she was trying to get some chat boxes to display and pop in with CSS. So using like max height 0 and all that.
Yeah, that's a classic question.
Yeah.
You know what really upsets me? When I started playing around CodePen, like, and this is not CodePen's fault, but when I started playing around maybe 3 years ago, if I typed TTY and TTX, those auto-completed to transform translate Y and transform translate X, and they don't anymore. And I'm so used to doing that. I think my animation coding has slowed down by, I don't know, 50% because of that. So. Oh, shouldn't be position absolutes. Now it could be in the normal flow. Oh wait, no. Yeah. So now this one is going to be display none, and then so otherwise it's going to be that animation.
Yeah. Yep, that'll do it. That works rather well.
Yeah, the easings are a bit off, but that's
okay. Yeah, it's just
it's a stylistic choice.
Something like that.
So, yeah.
There we go. Got that.
Well, and then I also got the subheading to.
Awesome. Yeah, that looks really good. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, feeling really good overall.
Yeah, I want to add a little staggering because so the animation does this really cool staggering thing when when fields show up dynamically and stuff like that. So if you're making this form in React or Vue or Angular, you have that power to dynamically inject just kidding, you don't, because these are all distinct fields. So you're not mapping over like the subheading, heading, paragraph, fields, whatever. But we could do it in the HTML anyway. So that's what we're going to do. So, and so I'm going to actually use a style attribute and just give it like an index. So this is indexed like 0.
Where are you?
I'm in line 31. So I1 style equals I2. Now, as far as inline styles go, I think it's pretty much my favorite thing to actually, let's have this input back in. So use CSS variables instead of any other styles, because that still gives us full control. And, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so inside that we could
do you have a transition on UI button? Or did you just set a transition on everything? Okay, you did.
Actually, why did I do that? Because flipping is controlling that. So yeah, that's not going to work. Because flipping defines an animation, and I don't know if a CSS animation delay is automatically applied by Web Animations API animations. So yeah, I'm still working on the next version of flipping, which is just going to use CSS variables and be one of those CSS variable powered APIs. There's already sort of an implementation of that, but so I'm just going to remove those for now. Okay, so I think that one of the final things to do is to actually, instead of showing and hiding each step, we want it to
Transition in and out.
just you know, slide up, slide in, right? Or slide out, slide in.
Slide out, slide in. Let me begin. Pack it up, pack it in. No. Let's see. So if we just add opacity 0 and opacity 1, it'll fade, right?
Will it?
No.
Yes. It
Kind of.
will. Oh no, it totally does.
Right, but we have to go back to the transition. Let's do all 0.5 seconds, linear, visibility, 0 seconds, linear, 0.5 seconds, and then transition delay, 0 seconds. And that should allow us, yeah, to get that nice fade in and out without any interactivity. Transform, translate Y, negative
Nice.
10%, 20%, and then this will be transform Y0. And let me a little bit more specific with the styling here so we don't mess up anything else. You making things invalid up there?
Nope. Okay. Never.
Right, and then UI section data active. We use our fancy adjacent selector. Transform, translate Y, 20%. This will actually speed up. Opacity, linear, transform, seconds, cubic, Bezier, 0.5, 0, 0.5, 1. And I'll put these on multiple lines. More readable. All right.
I wonder if this still holds true. If you do visibility, or sorry, if you do display none for like an input or a checkbox, does it no longer work?
I believe it's an issue in some browsers, but you know, that's one of those that I'm not sure how much is just legacy, you know, remembering cross-browser issues versus actual cross-browser issues.
Gotcha. One, choice two. You know, the more I do these, the more I think that actually making things in just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is really not that bad as people make it out to be. Yeah, we love to use like our Babel, TypeScript, Webpack, Parcel, whatever, build systems in order to do all this, but we forget to realize that we could create pretty complex forms in, you know, not too much code. Or at least not too much crazy code.
Yeah.
Let us know in the chat if you agree, or if it pains you to see us doing all of this without using any sort of build system.
No, all of these techniques apply to build systems. It's worthwhile to know the techniques behind all of it.
I mean, so I'm not describing like how useful build systems are because they're definitely very useful, but you know, you know.
Right. Okay, that's all doing pretty well with the transitions. That can definitely be slower. More dramatic.
It'd be cool if you and I could work on two different states at the same time. Now, selecting a particular state is not really a big deal, but yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice. Which, you know, at least it isn't carrying through our specific like key presses for.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be different kinds of animation insurance? Like, what about jank? We need some jank insurance, right? We need 3D.
3D is good, yeah.
3D insurance, and we also need what other types of
jank
3D. Jank 3D. Well, what are the let's see.
Making it pop.
Oh yeah, pop. No, physics. Dealing with physics-based animations or so. Or I want to say layout, but that gets into jank. Well, yeah. Cool. You know what? Funny enough, we're almost done. The last thing I want to add is that stagger thing. So
doing some lines or the indexes.
No, so not for each line, but for the for each part of like the subheading, the heading, the paragraph. So for the specific lines, feel free to add splitting. But for
I think we can get by this one. It not even be doing by line. It's just doing those specific animation pieces.
Okay, no problem. Transition. Or sorry, it wouldn't be a transition. Animation. You would have milliseconds. Remember, there was one episode where I did add some animation instead of add keyframes, and then I really wanted add animation to exist.
Yeah. Keyframes is a bit of a confusing name sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, and these should only be. This should only have the animation when it's actually active. So I forgot to add that.
You can move it. You can move it down here into the UI section to
Oh,
active.
just kidding. Okay. There we go. Did that work? Nope. Sorry.
Are those all directly under UI section? Yeah. Section.
They indeed are. And so I'm going to take a look at the compiled CSS just to see what I did wrong. Well, that's weird. The compiled CSS doesn't show us the the compiled CSS. You're gonna have to yell at someone at CodePen about this.
Let's see. Let's toggle over.
Yeah, are you seeing the compiled CSS?
I am not. Is your SAS valid? Let's see. Toggle over to prefix.
It's definitely valid. Oh, you know what's happening? So this animation is overriding this. Or so this right here overrides that for some reason.
Yeah, well, you're not using the short code. Or you're not declaring each property individually.
Well, that's what important is for.
Well, just moving it down there should be fine. There we go.
There we go. So,
okay.
All right. Okay, yeah, so you see the little, well, right now it's really slow, so let's do it down to 50. And now
I think 100.
Yeah, 100. It's probably good. Nice. Hey, that's a beautiful cubic Bezier. Let's put in a variable.
That feels really nice. Probably increase that a little bit too. Yeah, it's nice. That is very nice. Oh.
Nice. Yeah.
The computer is about to take off into the atmosphere, apparently.
Yeah, so is mine. Don't know if you could hear it, but you must be doing something about that.
I don't think we're doing anything that's not performant.
Yeah, it's all performance, of course. Why would we ever do anything not performance?
Yeah, that feels super good so far. I think we're at a good state here.
Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, it's looking good to me.
Yeah.
Is
awesome.
the state machine as you want it? Do we want a complete state, or are we fine with it just looping?
I think the loop is good.
Okay, yeah, it's a feature, not a bug. Actually, it is an intentional feature, so.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
Okay. Shall we move this into Keyflections?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, we're now moving into Keyflections, a quick review of the techniques we've used to build this animation. If you have any questions, now's a great time to pipe up in the chat and ask us.
Yeah, and so, of course, if you've enjoyed watching us so far, because you definitely did, you can follow and subscribe here on Twitch or YouTube, or you could pledge at patreon.com/keyframers so that Shaw could afford faster internet, or to move somewhere with faster internet.
Something like that, yes. All right, So going back, we got a challenge from Ali Tawash for this insure landing animation by Elkin, which just a lovely, lovely form design with a lot of nice elements. So we've recreated that here with a state machine. Just go through the animation all real quick. You get some lovely animations throughout. Yeah, that feels very nice. All right, so do you want to walk us through the state machine just super quick?
Yeah, sure. So the state machine, we have it has 5 states, so there's not really too much going on right over here. And so actually, let me go ahead and put this into, since I love doing this, into what I call XViz, which is a visualizer for the current version of Xstate. So the next version is going to have a brand new visualizer, with some extra features and stuff. But we have this finished state, which anyway, here is the state machine for that. It's a pretty big URL, but you could zoom in here and see it's also auto layouted. So as you could see here, it's one big cycle. So we start with step 1, and then it's going to, you could just click the state machine and yeah, it just centers. But yeah, it starts with step 1, goes to step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and then it goes back to step 1. So we can easily visualize that cycle.
Yeah.
Right over there. And of course, we have that finished state, which does absolutely nothing right now because we don't have a finished screen. So, yes. Yeah. And so what's happening is that on certain events, we're telling it how to transition from one state to the next. And so in this case, we have a next event that tells step 1 to go to step 2 to go to step 3, and so on and so forth. And so, and we also have the submit events that takes us back to the first step. So, yeah. Oh, and also we're setting a few data attributes too. We have data states, of course, and that's at the top level. And so what's useful about that is we could select that via, just a CSS attribute selector. We also have data show, which is for when we want things to be active under certain states. And we have data hide, which is sort of the opposite, but we don't use it over here. And so for our data show, whenever the state changes, we add that data active attributes to whatever is supposed to be shown, and we remove it from whatever is, not supposed to be shown. So, yeah. And so, yeah, so every time we transition through the state machine, we just go through each of those states.
Yeah. Awesome. And this fancy little step indicator actually isn't that complex now that it's built. Usually, it's very, very difficult starting out, but then once you get into it and start really tweaking it, it's not that bad. So a little unordered list here. We go down into our CSS, resetting all the styles, using display grid to help them space out evenly. For each step, they are also display grid so that we have our first little area here as auto, and then this fills the rest of the grid. So the span is our circle number, and then the before and after take up the rest of that grid. And whenever we transition to the next, we are setting the color to blue with the after element transitioning from one, sorry, let's see, the before, nope, sorry, I'm getting my elements confused. So the after is this expanding blue line. Whenever it's data active, it's only half the width so that it appears in between there. And then otherwise, it is 100% high. And then using that adjacent sibling selector, if it's after the data active step, then it doesn't, then it's scale-wise 0 so that you get that transition. And then up here I added, yeah, right here I added a transition delay so that it looks like it's one continuous line that's growing versus the lines starting to transition at the same time. So there we go. And then just a small pseudo element here for the numbers that expands out around it just with transform scale. All right, and then you want to talk about our staggering or our state transitions?
Yes. State transitions.
Well,
so just talk about that.
The UI section down here.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So the UI section, as I talked about, whenever we change state, we get that data active attribute. And so what's happening, what Shaw added, was that when it's not active, it's sort of hidden. So it's translated and then opacity is 0. And when it is active, it slides up. So it does that slide up in, or it actually just translates, right? Like it does that transition.
Correct.
And so it goes right back up. And then, so we have this whole staggering thing that's going on. So what's happening is that as the entire section is moving up, the elements inside are also moving up as well. And so they're moving up by a staggered delay. And so that staggered delay is defined in that SAS loop where we go from 1 to 5. I figured there's only 5 at most elements in there. And so, yeah, it just applies that delay to each one of those. And then you get the illusion of two transforms happening at the same time, where they're both translating by the y-axis. And this is something that we've done in like the transforming tumblers, or yeah, that episode, where we have two transitions going on at the same time. So you get that cool effect. And so yeah, so that's all the stagger animation does.
Awesome.
And also added a little bit of flipping. So there's that too. And so flipping is on step 3. And so what we discovered was that we need to add an animation to that button if it's display none. You cannot transition a display none button because any property that you define on it when it's display none is basically null and void. It's like it doesn't exist, right? So you need to add that animation so that it does the correct thing once it's finally displayed anything other than none. And so to do that, add those flip keys. And then I checked, like every time you check that checkbox, it does that flipping.wrap function in the JavaScript. And
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Flipping.wrap.
Yeah, so that flipping.wrap, it's going to do two things. It's going to read the position of the elements. It's going to execute the contents in this body. And then it's going to do the flip animation. So it's going to calculate the delta and then apply the animation.
Excellent. Wonderful. All right. Well, I think that's all for this one. It's turned out very nicely. I think it's a great example of how you can really add a great feel to a form without having to do a whole lot here. I mean, we're under 2 hours, an hour and 30 minutes.
Oh wow, yeah, for this big complex form.
Yeah. So
give us harder challenge. No, okay. This was a good challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Ali, for submitting that to us, Ali. Sorry if I botch pronunciation at any point, but you have been watching Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, then you can support us at patreon.com/keyframers. You can pledge there, and that helps us out a ton. You can also share our episodes on Twitter and all of your other social networks, and we greatly enjoy that.
And of course, we accept submissions for future episodes. Challenges like these are always great because we always want to know what you're doing in real life, and we want to be able to teach you, or struggle along with you and figure out how to do the animations for each one of these things. So tweet at Keyframers with any animations you like to see, and also ask us questions and challenge us and all of that. And we will, answer you on the air.
Definitely. Well, thank you all for joining us. Until next time, adios, amigos.
Adios.